Hey, what's going down, Savages? Welcome to episode 12 of The Savage Show. I'm your host, Stefan Paulin. A few years ago, I was scrolling through my Facebook timeline and I saw this video being shared a few times. I decided to click on it. It was this guy, big beard guitar, and he was doing this cover of this song, Ice Ice Baby from Vanilla Ice. Everybody knows that song, right? And even though I'd heard that song thousands of times before, I was a huge Vanilla Ice fan when I was a kid, had the tape and everything. I even did a talent show where I lip sync Ice Ice Baby once. I did that for reals. No footage though. This was back in the 90s. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't record everything we did, But I did do that. And even though I'd heard that song thousands of times before, knew the words, almost all the words, I hit play on this video, on this YouTube video. This guy with this big beard and his guitar started stringing the guitar and then started singing the words to Ice Ice Baby, and it was completely different. The emotions behind the song, everything was just completely different. And even though I'd heard the song before, I'd never heard that song like that. Just the way he was doing it, acoustic, guitar, his voice, just amazing. Last week, I had an opportunity to invite this man on my podcast. I took the opportunity. He accepted my invitation. I was extremely grateful, but at the same time, I was very nervous. Guy couldn't have been more nice, humble, just a sweet human being, for real. And we had a great conversation. I'm extremely grateful he accepted my invitation. I won't keep you guys waiting any longer. Let's just get to the conversation. It's about an hour plus, just a great conversation. I really know you're going to enjoy this one. So without waiting any longer, I really hope you enjoyed episode 12 of The Savage Show with Marty Ray Project. Listen, Marty Ray, first of all, I want to thank you for accepting my invitation for being a guest on my podcast. Welcome to The Savage Show. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me, brother. I appreciate it.
I saw your message on this group on Facebook, and I was like, man, I know this guy. I've been following this guy for years. I remember a few years back, one of your videos went viral on my timeline, and I clicked on it, and I remember hearing your voice for the first time, and I was like, wow. I think it was the Ice Ice Baby cover. And I remember hearing your voice. I'm like, wow. Once in a while you hear a musician, you hear the voice, you hear the emotions. And I was like, there's something there. And I started clicking around and started noticing you had other videos and and I was like, man, this guy, where does it all come from? Where does the Marty Ray Project, all that emotion, all that love for music, where does it all come from?
Well, I grew up listening to gospel music, still do listen to it. Matter of fact, I tell this in a lot of podcasts. I actually have Mahalia Jackson hanging on my wall in my office over there.
Oh, okay.
B.B. King and Willie Nelson hanging up here too. But it started with gospel music, and then I got into R&B music, was big, heavy into that. That's mainly all I listened to for a long time as a boy. And then when I went to that same place I just mentioned, the Pyramid, it used to be a Coliseum. At that place, when I was 12 years old, my mother took me to a Garth Brooks concert, and seeing him live made me start listening to country because he was just crazy. It was a crazy show.
Yeah.
Guitars together, things like that. So my voice and my writing, when I write songs and when I sing, it's kind of a modge podge of a myriad of different genres that I grew up listening to. And I think that's probably true for the majority of people. I don't think there's too many people out there that just listen to one thing and that's all they listen to is one genre. So that's kind of the same story with me. It all comes from that.
Yeah, I think you're right. For me, for example, I'll listen to rock, I'll listen to rap music, hip hop, R&B, and I'll listen to all sorts of different genres of music. And I think a lot of musicians also inspire themselves from different genres. So basically, you saw Garth Brooks, you're like, man, this is crazy. Was music something that was in your life before that? Did you have family members that were musicians, or was it something that you saw, you fell in love with, and you're like, I'm gonna be a musician one day? Or is it something that grew as you evolved and as you got older?
Well, I came out of the womb singing, so I didn't ever learn how to do it, so I probably still don't sing right. That's what I tell people. People will call me and they'll say, or they'll text me or message me or whatever, and they'll go, give me singing lessons, teach me to sing like you. And I go, man, I don't even know if I'm doing it right. I try to sing. I don't know how to. I don't know. I just what's in the heart. I just push it out however I can, and a lot of people seem to like it. So I'm thankful for that's a blessing. God just put it in me, man, from birth. It was just there. It lived there, and growing up. The funny thing is, growing up, I would mimic other artists. So I would mimic people like Mahalia Jackson, even though she's a female. I would try my best to mimic her and mimic Boys to Men and people like this. I would try to sound like them, and I was pretty good at it. And so for years, I didn't even know what I actually sounded like myself because I always was sounding like someone else. And my family, yes, I was inspired and always looked up to a couple of my family members that played in the church and they sang and wrote songs, and I always admired them. And I would send them things here and there of me singing or a song I'd written, and they would just kind of give a that's it needs work or that's all right. And then eventually, at one point, somebody in my family told me that I couldn't sing, that I wasn't good at it, and that I should learn an instrument if I'm going to get into music. And we kind of had words. I was like, no, I said, you ain't the boss, you ain't the authority on music. But even though I was trying to puff my chest out and act like that didn't affect me, it did affect me because I looked up to these people and it affected me. And I'm not mad at them today. I still love what they've done, and they were just giving their honest opinion, and that's okay. That's fine. But I think what it did do is it gave me tougher skin as I was growing up, and also allowed me to never be like that to anyone else. So I said, now if somebody asks me my opinion on a song or their voice, I always say, I'm not going to tell you that you don't have a career in music. I'm not going to tell you that you're not good, because that's not up to me. That's up to the world to decide. Right.
Yeah.
I tell everybody, I say, look, that ain't my cup of tea, but there's an audience out here for everybody. I mean, William Hung, a guy from American Idol, has had an illustrious career, and he really could not sing. Nobody, but that was kind of his MO,
Yeah.
So fast forward till about 2005, I got a MacBook, Apple MacBook, and it had GarageBand on it. And when I seen that GarageBand, I clicked on it and I was like, wow, I can record myself. I thought you had to go to a studio to do this. So I wanted to play around with it. I got some of my family to go to the church, and we were messing around and singing some stuff. And I wanted to have something to edit. But the first song that we were working on, so one of them had to go. So we didn't get to finish it. So before we left, I told my cousin, I said, just pick a song out of the hymn book and I'm going to sing it. I said, one that I don't know. I said, I'm just going to sing it, see what happens. And he picked Great Speckled Bird. And he said, how do you want to do it? I said, man, just however you play it, I'm going to go in there and just try to follow what you're doing, the emotions that you're doing. And he started playing, and I was in the office, as we were calling the vocal booth. We just had a cord running to an office, and he started playing, and it was the first time ever that I ever heard my real voice. God said, here's your real voice. We get ready to sing it. And I heard the piano, and I go, what a beautiful thought I've been thinking concerning a great speckled bird. And it was like, whoa. And I even felt that even just now. Yeah. I felt the same feeling I felt then. The chills come over you because you're realizing that God's showing you something now. He's showing you something special, that's where the spark started to go, okay, well, hold on a second now. Somebody might've been wrong here. Maybe I am meant to do this, because I don't know what this feeling can't just be for this moment only. Maybe this is for somebody else to hear. So then I took that and even showed my cousin when I came out of the booth. I was like, hey, man, that felt nice. I said, what do you think about that? He goes, it's all right. And I was like, okay, all right, well, we'll see what happens. So I made a video. Now, mind you, my family, like in my hometown, you were taught to dream within your city limits, so to speak. It was like a home. It was only a town of like 3,000, 4,000 people. And even my dad, he was the hardest working man, still is the hardest working man I've ever known. He had 5 jobs at one time, and there was 5 different businesses of his own to supply us with whatever. Like I didn't grow up poor, you know, I didn't grow up rich, but I didn't grow up poor. It was it wasn't all upper middle class, but it was in the middle somewhere, you know, where I never had to worry about food or, you know, the electricity getting turned off, things like that. So my dad made sure of that. He worked his butt off, and now he's worked himself into an old age before his time because of it, you know. So I always saw that, and I was like, man, I do not want to do that. I don't want to. I admire that, and I'm thankful for him, and I admire his work ethic. But he was a realist. He said, if you're going to make it, and he was never one to say you can't sing or you're no good. He was always like, yeah, you sound good, but that's not a career. You know, you're never going to make money doing that. Like that. And then even when I started gaining a little traction, he even says it now. I say, Daddy, one day I'm gonna buy you a house and make you retire from that town and that business and everything. He goes, I'll be dead before then. But at least now he says I will be a millionaire. Before he never he never would even say that. He said, I'll be dead before you're a millionaire. But so that we're making progress here. I just gotta speed up the thing. You know what I mean? But that's kind of how my whole family was. They were realists. They said, it was a pipe dream. If you had that dream or dreamed to do anything in entertainment or anything like that, it was a pipe dream. So it wasn't meant for you to, it was just meant to be a childish thing. You know, when we're children, we are taught that we can be anything.
Yeah.
We believe that. When you're a child, if they say you can be a superhero, then you put on a cape and you start flying.
That's
right.
That's right.
And you're sitting there and you believe with all of your heart that you are a superhero. You believe with all your heart that you are a fireman, that you are a singer, an actor, whatever it is. You believe it already. There's nobody can change your mind when you're a child. As you grow up, though, you're taught by dumb adults who think they're smart. You're taught to not dream that way anymore, not to think that. Be realistic now. Have a plan B, have a plan A, have a plan C, D, F. Don't go through life thinking that you can do whatever you want now. I mean, what is wrong with you? That's kind of what you're taught growing up. But that's kind of like I always go to the scripture, see, because I'm a Christian. Jesus even said, he said, unless you become as one of these little children, you will not inherit the kingdom of heaven. So it's kind of the same thing, because the children have faith that's unmovable. It's unmovable. You can't, like a child when they're growing up, there's nothing they won't believe. If you teach them you can move a mountain, they believe it because you taught them that. And as they grow up, they're taught by the world, by other people, and even by the own people that taught them they could move it, that they can't really move it. So that's what I'm saying. Like I am in the process every day of, here, my life was like this, being a child, believing everything I could do, getting into young adulthood and thinking this is not realistic. I can't, it's foolish for me to think that I could make it in music or acting or anything like that. So how dare I even think that's achievable? So I went to that and was looking for job after job and didn't want to have to always work for my father. And then now after that day, but it wasn't immediately after that day. It was years after that even. It was like God was molding me back into a childlike faith. So now I live on that. Every day I try to make sure that I'm more and more like a child in my faith, because you have to see the things that you can't see yet. You got to see them in faith before it happens. It ain't going to happen. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of where I'm at. Now I don't know I don't even know what question you asked.
I was just asking where it all came from, but you answered something. The answer you gave me right there, you kind of give me chill, because for me, there's a parallel to what you just said. I'm similar to you. I grew up in a small town with 4,000, 5,000 people. And you were, as a kid, you could dream all you want, but you dreamt within those city limits. Because if you wanted to just pick up and go, and when you grew older, you were stuck to do that on your own. And that's what I did. I had dreams. I wanted to do all these things when I was younger. I wanted to be a professional wrestler. From the age of 7, I fell in love with professional wrestling. And for years, I thought that I was a professional wrestler when I was a kid. I would play wrestling in my bed. I would break it. I would do everything. And it wasn't until later on in life when I became a teenager, a little bit older, where I was like, well, these are foolish dreams. Like everybody seems to be getting a job. Everybody seems to going to college and getting married, having kids. So I guess I'm going to try to fall into that mold. But there was always something that was keeping me like, nah, don't yet. Don't go in that mold yet. It's going to be a mistake. Just do your own path. But I was so scared, and I was just, because after a while you're kind of taught like, look, it's fun to dream, but that's all they are, they're dreams. And it wasn't until later in life when martial arts became part of my life in my mid-20s, when I had discipline, and then discipline became, oh, you need to work hard if you want something in life. And then I started applying myself and believing in myself and building that confidence that was kind of like stripped away as I went from childhood to adulthood. Like there was like more and more crap and filters that would kind of made like, what did I want to be when I was a kid? Well, I guess I'm just going to work my 8 to 5 and just collect my paycheck and go home and have a family. And I have a family now. I have kids. I'm truly blessed and I'm happy. I'm in a good place, but I'm 40 years old and I'm, doing these things that, I wish I would have done maybe when I was a bit younger, but it doesn't really matter now. But I kind of, when you said that story, I'm like, man, like there's so many parallels to the type of when I grew up, it was the same thing. So it's nice to hear like someone like you that just kept growing. You fell in love with music and you were like, one day I'm going to make it happen. And it kind of just happened.
Yeah. I wish I could say that. I think that here's the thing. It was all for a purpose. See, even your life is the reason that you started doing whatever you're doing now late was actually a plan, right? It wasn't, we shouldn't look back and go, like, I don't look back and go, man, how dare them for crushing my dreams before I even had a chance to dream them, but then I look back and I think about being 18 years old and what my life would have ended up being now had I not had my dreams crushed and I would have went after it. I might have very easily signed a record deal early, went on tour, never met my wife, never had children, never become the person that I am now. I might have been an alcoholic or a drug addict or who knows what, because I was young, I was stupid, I was very dumb back then, very dumb. And so I'm thankful for those moments. I think that they were godsends to keep me from getting into it early, because when you fast forward to my 20s, when I got into it, I was a lot more wiser. I'm not saying I was wise, but I was wiser, So like where people would come around trying to deceive me or say they could do this or that, I wasn't buying it. I was like, I don't have to sign with it. Well, I'll say at the very beginning, I wanted to sign a record deal. That was my intention. That was my full intention. I said, this is how you make it in the music business. You sign a record deal. So I was performing in these showcases and whatnot. And Sony Records called me in, and this guy was giving me tips and pointers or whatever about how to how saying your songs are good live, but nobody would ever buy them, that type of thing. And I'm just sitting there going, how would you know? And then they have these long list of songs and things that they attach themselves to, like this number one, that number one, this many sales, and all those things. And then it's about how many did you say would make it but didn't, that never had a chance. There's more of those than the ones that you say you did say would make it and make it. And on the flip side of that, how many did you say wouldn't make it and still made it? Here I am now, a testament to, depending on what you call making it, right? And I'm writing a book called How to Make It Without Making It, right? Because people don't know what making it means. They think making it means signing a record deal. They think that's all you got to do. If you got a record deal, you made it. But what they don't realize is sometimes signing that record deal is you not making it. Whereas before you signed the record deal, you were already making it. There's people that are in music that have a fan base and they make money. They make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, and a record label comes along, right? And they sign them because of their fan base. And then they make less than they made before they had a record deal. Now, do they have more exposure? Sure, but they're making less money. They're more stressed out. They got to now bend their morals to fit a record label, a corporation. They got to do what they say, do the songs that they say. So the things that I do, I could never do on a record label. Matter of fact, me talking to you right now, a lot of times they won't allow things like that. They you have to go through PR and all this stuff. They got to check you out and make sure. I don't have to do any of that. I don't have to wait on them to tell me when I can release a song, when I can release an album, what video I can post. I don't have checks, people gatekeeping me, So anyway, I would encourage you to not live in such a way, not that you are, but I'm just saying, encourage you and anyone else listening that wherever you're at now, you were held back for a reason. If you were held back, you were meant to be at the place you are now to do what you are doing. You're not meant to stay. If you have a dream, then cultivate it every day. Cultivate it. Create something every day. I always say God created us in his image, and he's a creator. We're creators. We're in his image. We are meant to create something. Right now, we're creating a show, a podcast every day. When you're doing MMA training, you're creating new muscle memory, new technique. It's a beautiful thing, right? And so you're doing MMA now.
I did MMA for 10 plus years, from the age of mid-20s to about early 30s, kids, family. I kind of made a pause on that, and then I transitioned to professional wrestling. And then I've been doing professional wrestling now for over 4 years, but we're not doing it right now. It has been almost a year because of the pandemic, so we can't do anything related to that kind of contact sport. But yeah, I've been doing professional wrestling, and it's kind of like what you said. Like when I started podcasting years ago, the thing I loved about podcasting, which I think is how you create your content as well, like I didn't want to have to answer to anybody. If there's one thing that I was sure of early in life, is that I did not like trying to fit someone else's mold of an idea that they want. So if I was a host of a show, but the show wasn't mine, it was someone else's idea, I could never let my true self shine through when the mic came on. And I always felt like I was always trying to be someone else's person. And then when I kind of realized later on in life, maybe it was becoming a parent, maybe perspective changes, a lot of things change. I was like, I'm gonna just be myself. I'm gonna just do what I feel like I'm kind of meant to be. And if it doesn't work out, well, you know what? At least I tried. I'll move on to something else, or I'll adapt. And I'm putting a lot of energy behind podcasting now because I have an opportunity. I'm at home because of the pandemic here in Montreal. Everything's locked down, but also because, like you said, I have this freedom and I get to create whenever I want. If I can get a guest on, I can create a show, and I have a creative mind. And it's not always about music or movies or shows. It could be a lot of different things. And that's why I get inspired when I see people like you that just say, oh, you know what? I ain't going to sign a record deal. I'm going to do this and I'm going to figure it out. And you did. You started posting on YouTube, and then videos started blowing up. And then 5, 6, 7 years later, you're at this level now. And even now that you're at this level, you're still trying to like move forward. I'm going to, build this out. So it's really inspiring. It's really inspiring to see and hear when guys like you just push through and work it out.
Well, I still don't have it figured out, so I don't want people to think that, because I sure don't, man. I still need support, and I only because I am a one man show in the truest sense of the word. Like, it's always been God, my fans, and me. So that's the only way I will ever make it anywhere. And my fans, beautiful, beautiful people. I love every one of them. Like you said, you're a fan. I love you to death. Right? I mean, that's the truth. Because if you've ever commented on any of my videos, you've probably gotten a reply back, right? I don't know if you have or not. But
I don't think so. Yeah.
But I myself, I reply back to 90% of the comments. The majority of the comments, however many I can get to before it stops alerting me, I reply back to them. Messages, emails. I am the one that you're talking to, and I want that to always be the case. And I always want that to be the case. So, but it's getting harder and harder for independent. That's a one-man show to keep battling corporate algorithms unless the fans now begin to say, okay, I'm going to make sure I go to your page or your channel physically, because they're not going to show it to them anymore. Like, they will not, unless I pay them money, they will not show a lot of content anymore. Now, I'm not saying that they've completely drowned me out, because that's not true. And there's an occasional video that'll bleed through and it'll do well again. But for the majority of times, unless something is literally hashtagged or described perfectly, then it's the hardest thing in the world to get my own videos to my own fans. It's hard. So I would just encourage anybody that's a fan of mine, and even you, join the mailing list at martyrayproject.com, so that there's no algorithm to battle, that you can get an update every time I release a video or a show or anything like that. And you talked about you've been podcasting for years. When did you start podcasting?
Listen, I fell in love with podcasting from listening to podcasts. And one day somebody said, you know how easy this is, right? You can buy a microphone, you could do it from your home. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah. So I did. I bought cameras. I bought Sorry?
How long ago was that?
Oh man, I had the Modern Maverick podcast. That must have been close to almost 8 or 10 years ago, if I remember correctly. Like, it was like, yeah, it must have been like 8 years ago. It was early on. Yeah, 8 or 9 years, because my son was born. And I just bought microphones and cameras. And I remember I always wanted the video aspect. I didn't just want the audio aspect. I felt like there was an added perspective of putting it on YouTube and not just putting it on Apple Podcasts. Mm-hmm. And I started recording from the get-go. And I changed the name 2 or 3 times. I had one that was specific to a certain subject, but it kind of grew into what this is now, where I enjoy having conversations with people that are inspiring, interesting, like a lot of people. And when I started podcasting, it wasn't for that. It was for me. I wanted to do something to get the attention on me. And as I grew as a person, as I changed, I realized that I just enjoy having conversations with cool people, interesting people, inspiring people. And if I'm able to do that, people will listen along the way. So I stopped trying to make it about me and just more about the guests, and I started having more and more guests on, and now it's strictly a one-on-one guest show, or 1-on-2, whatever. Sometimes I have more than one people, and it just grew from here. It like I said, like, it gives me an opportunity to have a conversation with someone like you, where I could ask questions, get answers. I'm going to go back after, I'm going to listen to the podcast, because, you might have said something that I missed, or it's just something that I enjoy doing. And because I get to do it, and I get to do it all on my own, I have no one tell me what to do. I edit everything on my own. Music, everything done. It's not complicated. I'm like, this is it for me. I might, I'm going to put a lot of energy behind it, and hopefully one day it can pay my bills.
I think it will. I think it will do that. You've got a very good cadence to your voice, and it's kind of got that French Canadian thing going on. It's pleasing to listen to, that's for sure. So the only reason I asked how long was I was actually podcasting before music. I podcasted in 2007. I had a podcast.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Before anybody knew what they really were. And it was so hard to get guests on in 2007. And did that. The only reason I stopped was because I started gaining traction in music, and I could not keep a co-host, because I'm one where I like to have a co-host on the show. So like if I have somebody on my show, which we have a show now, it's called the Marty Ray Project Chats. We have a podcast now, and we're like 31 episodes into the new one, and it's me and my buddy Chris Wallen, who's a hit songwriter. He's wrote some #1 hits, and we have guests on. You talk about wrestling, we had DDP on. You remember?
Really? Oh yeah, of course. I know him, DDP, very well. Yeah, that's awesome.
Braun Strowman is a friend of mine. He's going to be on.
Nice. Braun Strowman. Yeah, we'll do it. Yeah.
Braun and I did a video together. We sang on a YouTube video. We sang Hakuna Matata.
Oh my God.
Yeah, me and Braun. Yeah, so you should probably look that up.
I'm gonna show my son. My son will love that. My son's a huge fan, a huge wrestling fan too. Oh,
and we have MMA people on as well, like Matt Serra.
Yeah, I saw Matt Serra. I saw a picture of you, and I was like, I have to ask him. Like, is he an MMA fan? I'm like, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, Derek Lewis?
Yes.
He walked when he fought for the championship belt. When he fought Daniel Cormier.
Yes.
I was at that fight. If you watched it, you saw Derek Lewis walk up to the front row before he got in the cage and give me a hug. He gave me a hug.
Real? Oh, that's awesome.
And he walked out at Madison Square Garden, which was, I was just had chills and just thinking about it now, even it's he walked out. I didn't know he was going to do this. I was already honored that he gave me his family's tickets. That was his family. That was for his family members. And he gave me their tickets, and I was on the front row there to watch that fight. I wanted him to win that fight so bad, man, so bad. And when he came out to my song, my original song, "Haunted," I started hearing they introduced Derek, and then it was like in the entirety of the Madison Square Garden, you hear la 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 la, and I was like, oh man, I'd already made friends with the security right there, and I was like, bro, that's my song playing. And then he walked out to my song "Haunted," and they played the entirety of the song. It was on pay-per-view, and there was people coming to my YouTube going, Derek, who else is here because of Derek Lewis, the Black Beast? And I was like, that's crazy, man. Like somebody who has no label, no PR, no big time agency or management behind them is being introduced to Madison Square Garden, is being played in Madison Square Garden, has doors open for him. Like that's what I like. The scripture that I used to always have on my phone, and I still quote it today, is a man's gift maketh room for him and bringeth him before great men. Right. And that is literally my life. Like I'm not a great man. I'm not a big time, nothing, but it's like as my life, like I performed with Vanilla Ice. He and I are friends, and I got a story about BB King that just blows people's minds. You know, it's incredible. It's hard to believe that some of these things are true, and that's all going to be in my book. You know, whenever I get it finished, I don't know when, but it's the stories that I have I like to call myself a collector of stories, and I'm fine with that. I love the stories that God's given me, because there's some legends that have lifted me up when nobody else would, you know, like BB, before I had any fans at all. How much time you got on here?
Oh, I got time. Don't worry about time. We're good for time.
Tell you a story. You'll enjoy it. You know BB King?
Yeah, I do know BB King. My uncles used to listen to BB King on 8-track when I was younger.
Wow. Yeah. So wait a minute. How old are you?
I'm 40. So I used to live in my grandma's house. I grew up in my grandmother's house, and my grandma had 2 of her sons living when I was young, and one of them had a big like these old radios, you know, like had a record player on top, 2 tape desks, and he had a 8-track, and he had mostly records, but he had a few 8-tracks. And I remember specifically that one of the 8-tracks was a BB King, because my uncle used to bring it in one of the older cars that had still an 8-track player, and we used to go and he used to plug that in, and it's the only 8-track he used to listen to was BB King. Yeah.
Crazy, man.
Yeah.
I thought I was older than you. That's what's crazy. Oh. I look older than you. You look young.
Thank you.
38, but I look like I'm 50. But nonetheless, this is a story. Like I tell this a lot because I can't believe this is actually true about me. But anyway, I was at a BB King show, and this story just keeps building as it goes along. It's so crazy. I was at a BB King show in the front row, and I was jamming out. And BB at this time was an old man. He was sitting in the middle of the stage on a chair because he was wheelchair bound. He could walk a little bit, but they would lead him out and set him on a chair. So he was set on a chair, and he was playing and singing. And I was just on the front row doing this. And now, to preface it, before the show started, BB wanted the entirety of the house lights on so he could see everybody. So it was not dark to him. It was as if you're sitting in your living room. That's kind of how he played the entire show. And I thought that was super cool. So I'm sitting there, I'm vibing to it. I'm vibing. And he stops the show, and I don't know what he's doing. He's like, everybody hold on. Everybody hold on. Does this right here, you know, puts his hands up, tells the band to stop. And he says, he looks over at me, dead in my face. And he points and he goes, as long as that man right there is having a good time, so am I. Thrill is gone. and I'm going, like, I'm just, all these people now are looking toward me. And at this time, I have no fans, no connections, nothing. I have nothing. I have one album, the EP, the first EP that I ever come out with, the songs that I had set on for years that I thought this is just a hobby. That's all I had. And I had that with me. And he did that. And all these people were looking at me like, who is this guy, man? Like, this must be a record exec or something. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what they were thinking. But at the end of the show, BB wanted everybody to come to the front of the stage because that's what he was used to. You know, we were in a like a theater setting at a casino. You know what I mean? Like, it's like a kind of like a Broadway show would be. That's kind of what it was. And but he wanted everybody to come that could to gather around the front of the stage. So because I had already been on front row the entire time, I said, whoever comes, I'm gonna let them get in front of me because I already experienced the front row. So I let everybody get there. And then at the end of it, BB pulls out these guitar picks. He throws some to the fans, but they don't go very far because they're light. They're just guitar picks. And they spread out, and these fans are getting up there trying to get these guitar picks off, and the security's throwing them off the stage. And BB's getting mad. He's going, hey, I'm trying to give them picks. Stop that. And they wouldn't stop. So BB gets mad. He pulls off his gold bracelets off of his wrist and off of his neck, and he throws those to the fans. Yeah, that's what my face did. And I was going, I should have got up there on the front of that stage. At that point, I'm thinking, you think I wouldn't be wearing that right now today if he would have threw that to me? But but in reality, I'm thankful that because my story that I have, it continues on, and those people's story, they probably tell the same story, but theirs stops right there, you know? And so even though I say I should have got on front of the stage, but at the time I was thinking, before I knew what was to come, I was thinking, man, I should have man, that would have been amazing to have some of his personal jewelry. That's crazy. So then, because my stepmother, she was a frequent gambler at that casino. She knew the guy who booked the entertainment, and he knew me, and he had heard my album, and he really liked it. So he was always trying to get me back to meet people so I could give him this album. Because I thought at the time, I'll just take this album around to these famous artists, and that's how I'll make it. Little did I know back then that's not going to help you make it. It ain't going to happen. So I had the privilege of being able to go backstage and meet BB. There's about 50 people back there. There's a bunch of people back there. And I got my guitar. It's a Martin guitar, and I'm carrying it. And we're being led by a flashlight. So all I have is my Martin guitar. That I got that album that I made, that EP, 5-song EP in my pocket, and I got a BB King record in my hand. That's mine. And I'm walking, being led. It's really, really dark beside this stage, really narrow hallway. And there's a row of security standing there, just standing there, you know, like this, just like this. And we're walking by them, and they're leading us with a flashlight. And I'm just trying to make sure I don't step on anybody because I'm a wide fella, you know. And I'm trying to make sure nobody thinks, you know, I'm trying to nudge a security guard. I don't want to get no fight with them. So then as I'm walking by, this hand reaches out between the security guards and grabs my hand, right? And I'm going, what in the world? And it's pulling me towards the security guards. And they're going, hey, you got to move on. You got to move on. I'm like, somebody got a hold of my hand, bro. And they part ways. It's BB King sitting in a wheelchair, pulled me over to him and looks up at me and goes, I want you to know I enjoyed having you here tonight. And I go, I love you. I love you. You are amazing. And then he said, what you got there? And he saw that album I had. He said, what you got here? He said, boy, he sure was a pretty man then. And I said, you still pretty to me right now. And he was mad at his security. So he said, hold this flashlight. And he held the flashlight on. He signed the record. And then he said, I'll see you back there. And so I went on my way. I waited in this long line. I was the last one. And I was watching how all these people were going in there, and they had a guitar to be signed. They wanted it to be signed. They were being turned away. He wouldn't sign it, wouldn't sign their guitar because he was contractually obligated to only sign Gibson guitars because he was sponsored by Gibson. So it wasn't BB necessarily turning them away. It was his management. So BB, they weren't walking in there and BB going, "Nah, I ain't signing that." It was his management. Management would catch them and they would go, "Nah, he can't sign this." So they would get their picture and then go. And that's kind of how the routine was, And so I'm thinking, golly, man, I'm not gonna get this thing. He ain't gonna sign this guitar, man. So then I get to the last, because I'm at the very end. I'm watching as BB is fading as far as energy. Because I'm looking in the room now, and it's somebody here and it's somebody in there in the room, in the green room. And I'm looking at him, he's just like, and because he's an older fella, man. He's diabetic. This ain't easy for him to do, but he loves his fans so much. That's why he's a king, was a king, still is. But so as the last person goes, BB's just drained. I walk in with my Martin. I don't hand it to the manager. I go right to BB. And I walk in. As soon as I walk in, he goes, "Hey, my friend." And I'm going, "Hey, Mr. King." And I hand him my guitar, and he looks up at the head of it and sees it's a Martin guitar. And he looks back at me and he goes, "I'm going to sign it anyway." And he signed my Martin guitar. And to this day, I still have that. I still play that in my videos. It's got his name on there. I play that very guitar. And so he signs it, and I pull out this album. I think, well, here's my moment, right? I'm going to do a song with BB or something. And I pull out my EP, this that I had made, and I spent every last dime I had on, basically bankrupted on this album to get 5 songs done. And I hand this to BB, and he looks at it and goes, well. He says, "Who's got that Sharpie?" And I'm going, no. I said, "I want you to have that. I don't want you to sign. I want you to have it." He goes, "I know who this is for." And he goes, "Who's got that Sharpie?" They bring the Sharpie over. And he goes, "Sign this to Mr. BB King." And I signed my first album ever to BB King. We held it. There's a picture on my wall right there. We're holding that album that I signed to him, and we took the picture, and he takes it and goes, "Thank you, son." And he puts it in his jacket. I never met BB again. I never did a song with him. I never talked to him again. Don't even know if he even listened to it. But I like to think that he kept that riding on his bus forever, because there was some kind of kindred thing there. Like that don't make sense. Like, if you don't, like, God did that. God said there was those moments, like I just said, there was many of those moments in my life where every time I feel like giving up, God goes, "Let me show you. I'm going to lift you up real quick. Stay the course. Stay the course." It's like that image you see where there's a guy digging for diamonds. There's 2 guys digging for diamonds, right? And then there's the big diamond mine here. One guy turned around. He had that much to go. The other guy's about to get it now. And he might have started late. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's kind of how my life is. Every time I feel like giving up, God sends something like that. And it's like, because back then, what was the reason for him to call me out? What was the reason for him to feel so connected to me? No reason. He didn't know I was even a singer. He knew nothing about me. So it was just that story is hard to believe. It's almost like a movie. But every bit of it's true. You know what I'm saying? Every line that I told you is true. It doesn't make sense to me. And those things have had more things like that have happened. But anyway, I digress. I told you it's a long story.
I know. Listen, that was an amazing story. You can tell stories all day long. I don't care. That was a great story. I mean, it makes you wonder though. Like I know you're a Christian, and you, like you said, you feel like it's God that was pointing you in the right direction and said, "Listen, here's a little moment here to make you keep going forward." But you have to feel sometimes like he saw you in there as a fan, and he recognized you just swaying along to the music. He recognized like it was like souls meeting souls, it was like, there's something in that guy over there. And then after that, he's like, he took your album, you signed it. I mean, oh my God, that's just a crazy story. That's amazing.
There was a packed house swaying just like me. It was the whole house packed. We were all doing this. You know what I mean? There was people even louder than me. There was people going, "Woo!" Like all that. I wasn't yelling. I was just simply, you know what I mean? Just doing this. That's about all. I was like, man, this is crazy. I'm so glad I got to see BB before he passed away. And that's what I'm thinking in my head, man. I wish I could have saw Elvis. I wish I could have saw Michael Jackson. Then that completed the three kings, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Now all the three kings are gone. There's no more kings left in music.
No, it's true, huh?
And you think about that though. Why all the people that we called kings of music, they were fan first. They loved their fans. Michael Jackson, whatever you believe about whatever, all that stuff, I don't necessarily believe all that. I believe that was a attack. They were trying to control him, but that's another story for another podcast. But nonetheless, whatever you believe, that man loved his fans dearly. Elvis Presley, I'm from Memphis, so I know I could tell you story after story of how much this man loved his fans dearly. More than he would give Cadillacs away. He would be driving. Somebody would say, "Man, I love that pink Cadillac." He'd say, "Here, it's yours."
Wow.
Yeah, things like that because he understood that it wasn't because of him that he had anything. It was because of them. Too many artists today. That's why there ain't no kings anymore, because everybody's selfish. There's nobody out here that's selfless. They're selfish, and they're being taught more and more to be that way. Love yourself. Do what you want. Do what's good for you. Do what makes you happy. But I say the opposite. I say breathe for other people. Do what makes them happy. And not meaning people please, not meaning people that are trying to hurt you. It means give up a little bit of yourself if it's making somebody happy. Meaning if your daughter wants to go see Cinderella and you hate Cinderella, you're going to go see Cinderella anyway because it makes her happy.
That's right.
That's the way we're supposed to be with everybody. I know I reference the scripture a lot because it's what I live. The Bible says, treat the strangers as one born among you. So that means treat the strangers on the street just as your family. And that's what I try to do. You are my family. You literally, I think of you as my family. That's the truth.
It's a good and positive way to think. And I have a smaller circle, but I see it the same way. It's like I have these friends that I call family because they're like a support group for me. Like I feel like if I didn't have these, like I have a wife, I have 2 kids. They're my number one support group. They support everything I do, especially my wife. I'm extremely grateful to have her in my life, to be so patient and loving for all the crap that I put her through, you know, with like time spent in the studio recording podcasts, or even when I was a pro wrestler on the road, not here for weekends, sometimes 2-3 days in a row, if not longer. But yeah, I have friends that I call family because they're so important. You know, if I have listeners and fans, the same thing. It's like without them, it's like I'm nothing. This podcast would be nothing. Same with you. If your fans weren't around, why would you be? Your music, your Marty Ray Project wouldn't be Marty Ray Project without all your fans around and people just, you know, looking at you and listening to your music. It's extremely important.
Yeah, it doesn't exist. Anything you do in entertainment is only vindicated by the people that are supporting you in that. That's it. Yeah. And if people don't realize that, the people that don't realize that, how dare them, right?
Yeah.
How dare they not? Because there's a lot of people, and what's sad is that what's truly sad is that how many people that are famous that have a massive amount of fans that could care less about any of them. They're all just a number to them. Each follower, each subscriber, each view, each comment that I have, they all mean something to me. I see that as a human, not as a number. But it's a shame that that people do support people that could care less about them. They don't even care to talk to them. If they see them on the street, they got to have the security remove them. Now, I'm not saying, I know how it can be sometimes if you're eating at a restaurant, right? I did this show one time in LA, and it was a show at a conference. So we were all within this community together, kind of, you know. So when I went to eat, I was in the community, which I was fine with, and it didn't bother me. But it gave me an insight into what it would be like for a super famous person, because I performed and then spoke at this event, and after I was sitting down to eat with some buddies, and there was just a bunch of people that were coming over and said, "Can I get a quick photo?" And I was fine with it. I was like, "Yeah, man, sure. Heck yeah." And everybody that wanted a photo, I made sure they got a photo, no problem. And, but I could see how if that happened every single time you went to eat, that would get a little inundating. It'd be a little, you'd be like, "Man, I just really just want to chill. I want to just eat right now." Just let me eat, please. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I think that, like, and I'm not talking about everybody that's ever had a security around them is bad, because I can understand why certain situations, like if Brad Pitt goes out to a restaurant, he's going to have to either have security or be ready to be flooded by people.
Of course.
So I don't ever want to be that famous. People ask me, Ludacris and Flow Rider, I performed in front of them one time, and they asked me, like, Flow Rider said, he said, you being from Memphis, do you feel like you have big shoes to fill, seeing as though that's where Elvis is from? And I said, I'm not trying to fill Elvis's shoes at all. I said, I don't want to be that big. So then Ludacris said, well, how big do you want to be? I said, just below him. You know what I'm saying? Just right below him. So I want to have a place to hide. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want to at least be able to go somewhere in the world and not, which I'm just joking anyway. I don't even want to be that level. I don't even want to be that high. I want to be able to, my dream would be to have an audience locally that's huge locally. That would be my dream. So that I could actually leave if I wanted to go eat and not be, inundated by fans. Your camera got blurry.
Yeah, I'm trying to like flare it up. Sorry about that. I just, for some reason, I looked out of the corner of my eye and I was like, what's going on in here? Yeah.
Oh, it focused like close. It pulled it up.
Yeah, when I get too close, I guess because I have a light that shines behind, and there you go, a little bit better. There you go.
There it is.
One of the things that I notice from you is that, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but early on, I'm not early on in your music career, but you kind of like said, look, I'm going to do this and I'm going to post my content, my music. You started posting it on YouTube and doing it on your own. Did you have a foresight that this was going to be something big one day, or was it just like, hey, I get to post here for free and I can post all the content I want. I'm just going to do that and let it hit. And if it hits, if it doesn't hit, but I just want people to hear my music. And this is a great platform for me to put my music on.
If I said, hey, back then I thought, man, you know what's going to happen, boy? You're going to be performing with Vanilla Ice. You're going to be played in Madison Square Garden. You're going to this, you're going to that. That'd be a lie. I had no clue. It started off, I wanted to just make people laugh. Like my whole music career, my dream originally was to write songs and other people sing those songs, but for me to write parodies. That's what I wanted to do. Okay. Write parodies and make music videos of those parodies. So in actuality, that's how I even started building my fan base. I did a parody of All About That Bass. I called it All About That Beard. And that blew up. Yeah, that got like 2 million views in a day. And next thing you know, this ball was rolling. And I was like, I gotta keep providing now. I gotta keep providing, and hopefully I can get out of this record, because I was running my dad's record business in West Memphis. And I was like, maybe I can get out of this record, because you talking about no sleep, man. When you run a record service, if you're by yourself, you're getting called all during the night. I would get called out at like 2:00 in the morning and for a police call, told that, get it dropped off, get home, lay back down to go to sleep, get a call at 4:00 and had to go do the whole thing again. And then back, and it's that was so, and I'm thankful for that too, because that allowed me to be able to sustain and make a living while I was trying to record music and do things like that, make videos. But nonetheless, do I want to go back to that? No, I don't. I'm glad I don't have to do that anymore. Actually, I called Tow Truck Driver that I wrote back then on that first album.
Oh, really? It makes you appreciate times like this, though. Like myself, I have a full-time job. I work. I'm grateful that I have a job and pay the bills and stuff, and I'm able to work on my projects, work on my dreams, work on what I, hopefully, like I said earlier, hopefully one day it'll pay the bills, or it becomes something that I want, that vision in my head, and when I was younger, I wanted that vision to be there tomorrow. And I thought that if I really wanted it enough, that it would happen. And then one day I said, nope, you can't make nothing happen if you just want it. You got to figure out all the ins and outs and then do them and then put the work and all that. And then once I started the ball rolling with everything in life, it was just it stopped being about the end product, and it started being about the journey for me. And this is like recent couple of years where I really stopped chasing one particular thing and just saying, I'm going to set my direction in that way. And then I'm just going to enjoy the journey along the way, learn the lessons, correct course, and then just keep going that way. And if one day I wake up and I don't want to do this anymore, then I won't feel the pressure that I have someone that I owe something to, either like you, it'd be like a record company or anything. Is just be like, this is me. I get up every morning and I do this because I love to do this. And there's no expectation from anybody else but myself.
I love that. And I will say that people ask me, they say, how did you do what you've done? They ask that question a lot. And the simplest answer I can give is like what you just said. You said you thought about it and you thought, well, if I can think hard enough, it'll happen. But that don't happen. God honors effort. That's what I tell them. I say, God honors effort. You put the effort forth and you keep putting it forth, and he's going to honor it. And that's what's happened with my life. It really has happened over and over in my life. And you talking about changing your direction recently, right? I believe that there's a flood of whatever it is that was there as a younger man. That's all going to be showing up very rapidly now because of the effort you're putting forth.
That's right.
To gather it. You know what I mean? So I think that's very sage advice to give people, to not just think about something, but be about something. It's a big difference.
That's very important. And I think it changed for me when I had my son, because once you start realizing that you have people looking up to you, you can't just be about the talk anymore. Because if you're only about the talk, guess what? Your kids are going to be the same way. And they're going to grow up thinking that everything's going to happen for them without them having to put any effort. Because when I grew up, and it wasn't because of certain people, it was just because of the circumstance. For some reason, I was kind of entitled, like later on in life, like, my late teens, early adulthood, because I thought one day things are just going to happen for me. I don't know where it came from, but it was just that mindset. And I realized after a while, I'm like, man, you ain't going to go far in life if you just sit back and wait for things to happen. It's 1 in a billion that things are going to happen for you. You'd have better chance making stuff happen for you. And then as I make it a habitual habit, I like to use that because it's all about habit. Every day, if I have to work out, I work out. I work out because it helps me mentally, physically, helps me feel better, and then it gives me energy. But then I do it every single day or constantly. And it's the same thing with podcasting. For you, it might be the same thing with music or anybody that has a dream. If you can just do it consistently, become a habit, it's going to become a part of your life. And then it's just going to be, it's not going to be work. It's not going to be anything. It's almost effortless if it's part of who you are. It's like getting up in the morning, brushing your teeth and getting ready for your day. It's going to be the same kind of way, it's same kind of things.
I will say that you mentioned earlier, you said, you get to wake up and if you don't love it, you just don't do it. I am kind of the opposite of that. It's like, because there's moments if you're going after a dream, there's going to be moments, because I always say the only thing that separates the successful people from the non-successful people is persistence. Because we'll all get to a place when we're trying to follow a dream, whatever that dream is, because it's unorthodox in this world to follow dreams, because dreams are looked at as fairy tales.
Yeah.
So there's going to come a time when you go, man, this is hard. I don't feel like doing this now. Nothing's happening. But that's when you keep going, because that's when you know that you're really digging that tunnel nicely. That's when you're chipping away at it. If it's smooth sailing, you better be ready for a wilderness, because it's coming.
Yeah.
And when it comes, when you move past that, that's when you're making progress. That's when you're taking this dream, and now you're changing it into a reality. That's what's happening right there in that moment. You're saying, because you're letting God and every attack know that you will not stop. There's nothing going to stop you. You might get down, you might get low. I still do this to this day. There's days I wake up and I go, man, I don't want to do this anymore. but I keep on doing it because I was put here to do this, and I'm going to keep on doing it. And when that happens, then next thing you know, here I promise you, every time that I feel like, man, matter of fact, I'll tell you this: I've prayed even, and I've said, Lord, I don't know if I can keep this up. If you want me to keep doing this, then let me know. Give me a sign. And I promise you that very day, I would get a message from somebody, and they would say, I want you to know your music saved my life. Right. That's the best gift you can think of. They say literally, I had a gun to my head and your music came on and it saved me. Something told me to put the gun down. So I hear that and I weep. Right. I cry because I'm thinking, man, thank you, Lord, because I'm sorry for being so selfish. How dare I think I can give up now because I'm not here for me. So what if it hurts a little? So what if it's a little hard? I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing this for everybody else. That's if I'm going to say that, I got to live that. So, and that's kind of what, so there will be times like it won't always be roses and sunshine. It ain't supposed to be. It's supposed to be get a little hard every now and then. And I think even at the very top of the echelons, it still gets a little hard for those people too. They battle depression and stuff just like everybody else, and they're on top of the world, right?
Yeah.
So
sometimes having all the money, all of the fame, it doesn't fix what's inside. If you feel, certain things can bug you. Yeah, it's definitely not all rosy. Sometimes I feel like there's, if you're chasing a dream, if you're chasing something, there's obviously always going to be parts of achieving that goal, that dream that you're not going to enjoy doing, but you're still going to have to get up, do the work. Didn't enjoy it, but it's necessary. Like I run a lot when I work out, and people ask me, oh, you run a lot? I ran a marathon not too long ago, and people are like, oh, wow, good job. And I was like, I told someone with this, I don't even like running. Right. I do it because it helps me with my mental health. And it also helps me. It's a good cardio workout for me. And I get to work the stuff out in my head when I go for a 10K run. I don't run with headphones. If I have something to figure out, I go for a run. Because at the end of that run, most times I'll be like, all right, there's a clear vision now. I will or I will not continue in this direction. That, for me, that's what worked. I'm not saying that's going to work for everybody. And it's kind of what I tell people. My message is always like, find something that you're going to enjoy doing even on the bad days. Even when you're having a bad day, if you're able to do something that you enjoy, it's going to change everything. It's going to change your perspective. It's going to change everything. And then all of a sudden you're going to realize like, oh, it's just a moment in time, that bad day. That doubt that I had in my head, it's just one doubt, but all the rest of the time, you're good to go. Do your thing, keep going forward. And one day, it might not happen tomorrow, but man, if you keep applying that pressure and putting in the work, one day you'll get there. And the journey along the way, the thing I like about social media and podcasts is I get to show people the process and the journey so that people are like, oh, okay, I get it. Some days are harder, some days are easier, but it's the journey. And like you, like, I feel like after a while, like I have a responsibility. Because like you have got message before, like, hey man, I listened to your podcast and that message you said, it really like hit home, and I'm like, really? And it may be only one person, but if my episode hit one person, even if it's only one person, then I'm happy because that one person can go on and go, man, it changed my life, that thing he said. And now from now on, I'm going to do this and do that. And I'm like, whew, it hits home, sometimes when I get those messages. So I understand that it's weird though to do something for that reason. Cause there's a lot of naysayers that are going to go, nah, that's not really why you do it. That's why you say you do it, but you're really just doing it for the clout and for yourself. Right. And you're like, nah, man, I just want to be a positive impact on people's life. It's that simple.
The beauty is, of course, there's going to be people saying that. And it's because human nature teaches you to be selfish. You want to And I'm not going to sit here and lie and act like that I don't enjoy when people say I love your music. Right? That's like you enjoy, and anybody else would enjoy when they say, "Man, I love your podcast, man. Man, what you're doing is changing things. I love it, man. I just love." Like, of course, you enjoy that. You. Everybody loves adulation. If you say you don't, you're lying. You're lying if you say that. But if that's really the drive is for you to be praised by other people, then it's not going to last. And if it does last, even if you get to the top, you're going to be empty, man. You're going to be so empty. And there's a lot of times that does happen. There's a lot of empty folks at the top. And that's why you see them so depressed, because they haven't their purpose that they thought this right here. If I could just get here, money and success never will sustain you. It'll never make you feel accomplished. It's not the thing, man. The thing is living for other people. That means you always have a purpose. If you don't live for yourself and you only live for other people, your purpose is always all around you. So that's the beauty of it. Anyway, I feel like I'm taking too much of your time here.
Nah, man. Listen, let's end it here. I am grateful for you accepting and coming on my podcast, man. This was such a great conversation. I really, really, I'm really grateful. And I want to thank you for being a guest on the Savage Show. And look, I'll tell people on my end when I release the episode, but if you want to go ahead and share your information, Instagram, YouTube channel, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'd love it if everybody that listens would go to martyrayproject.com and join the mailing list, get some merch. This is a piece of merch I have on right here always. And also go check out the podcast and rate and review the Savage podcast, rate and review Marty Ray Project podcast, because that helps tremendously when you do that. So, and share all of it, share it. And then we will, return. We're always going to be there for you. Ain't we?
Of course. I thank you so much. I feel like I can talk to you for hours. You're such a man. I love people like you, man. I really like it's. I have a big smile on my face. I can't wait to go back and tell my wife how good this was, because I was a bit nervous today when about having you on. You know, I was like, man,
I hate that because I know what that's like too. I know what it's like to have a big guest and be nervous, and I'm not really a big guest, but I'm saying,
listen, the biggest guest I've had so far.
Well, like when I was podcasting in 2007, the biggest guest I had was Darius Rucker. You know who that is?
Yeah.
The Blowfish.
Yeah.
Could not believe that he agreed to be on the show. And I was such a rookie and I was so nervous, man. And he kind of just became this cool dude, man. He was so fun. And it just really had an impact on me way back then. I was like, I hope that I can be that for other people someday when I come on, that they just see we're just friends. It's all this conversation, you know?
Yeah. All human beings.
I'm glad that happened.
Thank you. I'm really glad. And I'm happy you agreed to come on my show. And I really hope we get to do this again one day. And I wish you nothing but, good things in the future for you.
Hey, follow me on Instagram. And when you release the episode, share it to your story and tag me, and I'll share it and and put a link.
Will do. I think I already follow you on Instagram, but I will share. The episode will be released this Wednesday, so in 2 days. So I'll tag you in, and if you want to go ahead and share, I'd greatly appreciate it.
Definitely will. Send me a message so I know which one you are.
I will do. Thank you very much, Marty Ray.
Brother, I appreciate you. God bless you.
All right. Have a good night. Bye-bye.